Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. According to recent surveys, trust in the Catholic Church in Poland has fallen over the past few years, with fewer than 4 in 10 polls saying they have confidence in the institution, while nearly half now express distrust. Now, the drop is most noticeable among younger generations, which makes us wonder what's behind this shift and whether it's a long-term change or something that could shift again. Now, to discuss it all further, we're joined by Jacek Wasilewski, lecturer at the University of Warsaw. Good to have you with us here on TVP World. So let's start with these survey findings. This decline, there's a drop towards trust among Poles. What's your view here? What are the reasons that are behind this? And do you agree with the findings?
Yes, I agree with the findings, and I think that there are few factors contributing to the crisis. First is disruption in ritual continuity after the pandemic, and the second is polarization and its political alignment because churches align with one side. And the third could be the media discussion about pedophilia and the lack of clear action to address the crisis. And the last but not least is the general decline in trust in institutions. So I think that the church is entering a trajectory of treating religion like in other European countries where the level of trust is not very high.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you mentioned a few points there. We'll come back a bit later. You mentioned also the pandemic, after that, different scandals and things like this. Let's hone in also on where these surveys have really pointed to is in younger generations. So expand a little bit here why very much younger people, according to these surveys, what reasons specifically have been behind that?
The younger generation is engaged in community in a different way than the elders. They are more mobile and participate more in online life than in parish life. Engagement in church life is connected to local life with synchronization of residents during holidays, family celebrations, and local memory days. And young people are more individualized, living less of a communal life. These individual values, combined with greater financial opportunities and belief in their own abilities, mean that the church is not needed as support. And I dare say that spiritual life was never very deep in Poland. This is evident in how unchristian we treat migrants, how political polarization doesn't help with Christian love. The church is also no longer an important voice, allowing young people to live together as couples. Yes, so norms have changed. Norms have changed significantly here in Poland, and there is another reason of the decline of trust in the church. We can see the exodus of students from religion classes after confirmation. You know, this is the ritual that is necessary for church weddings. This indicates that the treatment of religion is very ceremonial, almost a bureaucratic obligation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Interesting you point out to the ceremonial and spiritual. I'm just wondering, because of, if we kind of transcend here different elements, there's the religious part. I mean, could it be that there's more of an identity? I mean, if we look at the church, I mean, it's a long discussion to have, but if we look at the church in Poland, traditionally that's been very important for many reasons, right? That's also a part of national identity. So could we see more, maybe a shift that's away from the religious, more to the secularized identity of Catholicism? Do you see that being a trend here, or is this a major decline on all fronts in your view?
No. The church is in Poland is seems to be more national than universal. Polish identity is important in the community, especially in some regions, for example, the East and the South. So Polish identity is important in the community, not the Catholic community in general, I think. So I think that we have in Poland rather the Polish religion than Catholic religion, I suppose.
All right, but if we're looking also at historically in Poland, if we look at the church, the Catholic Church has survived through various crises. You've had communism, you've had occupation, but at the same time, it still is around us. And if we compare, I just want to expand a little bit around the region. I mean, we still account for quite a lot of people associating with the Catholic Church, more so than would be in Germany, even more so in some other states around the region, like the Czech Republic. That will be less, I believe. So I'm just curious where you see this go. I mean, if this is just something temporary, and what can the Church do, if anything, to bring back some of those people who've abandoned it?
When just look at the evolution of church in Poland. First, at the beginning of the 20th century, it was the custodian of Polishness, as you say. It was very important for the Polish identity. It was the place where national ideas could develop when Poland was not in a map. And later, during the communist times, the church was a place of free thinking for the democratic opposition, including non-believers. Yes, so the church was also a mediator between communists and the opposition in the communistic times, and these were important social functions. Then the church was intensively strengthened in its position, and conflicts arose against this background of power. And currently, the authority associated with the church is perceived as one that imposes moral standards, especially regarding giving birth to children with little defects, which caused massive women's protests several years ago. The church is nowadays perceived as an inspirator of political actions, or a justification for these actions. So I think that it could be perceived in a different way in Poland and outside Poland, because outside Poland it could be the real and important factor of maintaining Polish identity.
Mm-hmm. And I want to dive into more, you've alluded to it already a little bit, that relationship between the state and the church. That has been a close one, on and off over history. But at the same time, how has this impacted also politically how people engage with the church, positively or negatively?
It's complicated because it's different on the west and east. But generally speaking, state-church relations are very close in Poland. For example, local openings of newly built buildings take place with the participation of church authorities. And state-church relations depend on political power. Church organization associated with church media like Radio Maria, for example, received large subsidies from the state just a few years ago. So such relations were perceived by part of society as dishonest because they were not related to church's mission, but to power. But the perception of church is very different, in south of Poland and east of Poland, and in big cities, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you about where those places are. I mean, you see that urban and rural divide. Is that set to continue, do you think? Or is this, I mean, this is also something we're seeing in other parts of Europe, but it does seem to be more, is it starker here in Poland in your observations?
I think that we are on the trajectory of becoming a normal European country. So I think that Poland will be very similar to other countries like Italy or Ireland. From my point of view, this is unable to rebuild the trust in church.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you mentioned Ireland. I just want to make a brief point about it, because that's also where you had declining church membership, but the church kind of regained that and still remains quite involved in schools and charities. So I'm just wondering if that's an example where Poland is moving to. But let's briefly get into scandals as well. How damaging has that been? And basically, do you think that in any way this will impact a difference here? Can the church do anything in the near term, long term, to, let's say, amend the damage that they've done in Poland?
I assess that the handling of scandals in church as poor, because the church was so strong that it was unable to say mea culpa in a modern way. And special commissions for pedophilia cases were created involving very pro-church, people like Tomasz Terlikowski, for example. But the radical part of Catholic society treated this commission not as an attempt of purification, but as joining the enemies of the church. Okay, so these attempts of purification started to be, some other field of polarization. So therefore, handling scandals rather polarized society than led to positive effects.
Okay. And then also, we touched on this at the very beginning. I'm curious your view, because in the one sense, we have surveys saying there's a declining percentage of people into the church or leaving on the younger generation. But at the same time, what's your view? Is there maybe a difference of attendance to alternatives? We see a lot more other sort of spirituality and more coming from the East, from India, etc. Is that more of an alternative for young people? Where do you see that going in terms of trending?
As you said, many Poles in large cities, for example, switched to practicing yoga. But seriously speaking, I don't think that first that there is a high level of spirituality, and spirituality wasn't a problem in Poland to a large extent when the church is no longer present as a sanctioning family rituals like marriages or funerals, and also when the church no longer participates in agricultural rituals, as there are fewer and fewer small farms. It will simply be like in other countries, I suppose. So elder people live in local life, and this life is it's in a small community, and church synchronizes them. But young people are more mobile, as I've said, and live in internet, on YouTube. So they started to be very far from this local life.
Okay, well, we'll see how that trend, if it's going to be something short-term, long-term, see how it plays out. Church has always been important in Polish history, so we'll see what it means. Thank you so much for all that. That was the insights from Professor Jacek Wasilewski. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. That concludes World Talks, but there's much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away.